Have you ever wondered why households in China save so much money? I mean, a lot of money. It's a huge question, and it has massive consequences for their economy and, frankly, for the rest of the world. So today, we're going to dig into this really fascinating IMF paper that tries to unpack this very puzzle. Okay, first things first, just look at this chart. See that red line way up at the top? That's China's household savings rate. It is absolutely towering over the average for developed economies. That's the OECD and even other emerging markets. We're not talking about a small gap here. This is a giant structural feature of China's economy.
So, yeah, that brings us right to the big question, doesn't it? What is going on here? Why this extreme level of saving? Well, according to the IMF paper, it really boils down to three powerful forces at play.
The first big reason? It's the social safety net, or maybe more accurately, the lack of one. When the government doesn't provide a really strong backstop for things like healthcare or unemployment, well, people have no choice but to build their own. And this gets to a key economic idea called precautionary savings. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's the totally rational decision to stash money away just in case something bad happens down the road. And in China, this urge to save for a rainy day is incredibly strong. And this chart right here just lays it all out. Those solid lines kind of hugging the bottom, that's China's public spending on things like education, health, and social security. Now look at the shapes floating way above them. Those are the averages for developed countries and other emerging economies. I mean, in every single category, China is spending way, way less. Let's just zoom in on healthcare, because that's a huge source of anxiety for any family, right? China's public spending on it is only about 3.5% of its GDP. The average for developed countries? It's more than double that at 7.2%. It's pretty simple, really. When you know you have to cover more of your own medical bills, you're going to save more. And check out this number, because it shows the direct impact of all this. The study actually found that if the government increased its social security spending by just 10%, the savings rate for rural households would drop by half a percentage point. So this shows these policy choices have a real, tangible effect on how families manage their money. And that rural-urban thing leads us right into our second major driver. It's a system that's pretty much unique to China, and it creates this huge sense of insecurity for millions. It's called the hukou system.
So, what in the world is a hukou? Well, think of it like an internal passport. It's a household registration that ties your access to all the important social benefits, we're talking schools, healthcare, pensions, to your official place of birth, which is classified as either urban or rural.
Now here's where it gets really tricky. You have hundreds of millions of people who've moved from the countryside to the big cities to find work, but they're still carrying their rural hukou. This means they often get limited access to the public services that their neighbors with an urban hukou just take for granted. It creates this massive sense of insecurity. And the financial fallout from this is just staggering. On average, these migrant workers in cities, the ones with a rural hukou, they save 6.8 percentage points more of their income. Why? Because they're forced to build their own private safety net since the public one isn't fully there for them. Okay, so our third driver is China's absolutely massive real estate market. And this one is a fascinating puzzle because it plays this contradictory role. It can actually encourage people to spend and force them to save, all at the same time. So on one hand, you have what economists call the wealth effect. For decades, property values in China just went up, up, and up. If you owned a home, your net worth was constantly growing, which made you feel wealthier and, more confident about spending your money. But, and this is a huge but, on the other hand, you have the down payment effect. For all the people who didn't own a home, those exact same soaring prices meant they had to save like crazy just to have a shot at getting on the property ladder. And that pushed the national savings rate up. Which, of course, brings us to what's happening today. For the first time in a very long time, China's property market is in a serious slump. So what does that do to those two powerful opposing forces we just talked about? Well, the IMF paper found something really crucial is happening. For homeowners, that old wealth effect is now in reverse. Falling prices make them feel poorer, so they're saving more. But for the non-homeowners, that frantic push to save for a down payment, well, that effect has started to weaken a lot. So why is that happening? It really all comes down to confidence. With prices falling and so much uncertainty about the future, people are hitting the brakes. They're delaying or even just canceling their plans to buy a home. That urgent, desperate need to save for a down payment just isn't what it used to be. It's like the dream of owning a home is being put on hold, and the intense saving that came with it is being put on hold too. So you put all three of these drivers together, a weak safety net, the Hukou divide, and this property puzzle, and what do you do about it? The paper wraps up by laying out a pretty clear path forward, which we've kind of stylized here as a policy briefing for Beijing. So, the big question for policymakers is how do you get people to unlock all this cash they've saved up and start spending it to boost the economy? The analysis points to three really clear priorities.
All right, first up, tackle that precautionary saving head-on. Strengthen the social safety net, especially in rural areas where you get the most bang for your buck. Second, speed up the Hukou reforms. Give those migrant workers the same benefits as city residents. And third, you've got to manage the housing market's downturn in a way that restores some long-term stability and confidence.
Ultimately, this whole thing leaves us with a really powerful final thought. For years, China has been trying to shift its economic engine away from just building things and towards consumer spending. Well, the key to making that happen might just be locked away in the bank accounts of hundreds of millions of households, just waiting for the confidence to finally come out and be spent.